everybody, we're going to get a little bit off track today since I'm not here. Those simplifications are kind of tough. I'd rather do those with you in person. But I want to do 3 of them right now. Easy ones, just to kind of get us back in the groove of what we were doing yesterday. And then we're going to do a different lesson today, and we'll come back and pick up some more of those simplifications and certainly answer all of your homework questions when I'm back here in person. What I'd like you to do now, though, please, is get out your note sheets and turn to page 40. So page 40 in the note sheets, we're going to look at problem number 12. Now I want you to work right here along with me, please. Get your note sheet out. Problem number 12, here we go. I want you to look at that numerator. The numerator is the difference of squares. Now it looks funky. It's a cosine squared, not an x squared. We're used to seeing x squareds. But if that had been a squared minus 4, if that's what we had in the numerator, you all would know to factor that a plus 2, a minus 2, because that's how we factor the difference of squares. But here we don't have an a squared minus 4, we have a cosine squared minus 4. So that's going to factor as cosine minus 2, cosine plus 2. And that's all over a cosine minus 2. So the numerator factors as the difference of squares, cosine minus 2, cosine plus 2, and it's over cosine minus 2, so these are going to cancel, and your answer is just cosine x plus 2. Let's look at the next one. This is number 13. I know you're just beginners, but soon this will pop off the page at you, because we have an identity that says sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. That's a biggie. Sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. That means if we rearrange things and subtract sine squared from both sides, we would have cosine squared equal to 1 minus sine squared. Which means if you find a 1 minus sine squared somewhere, you can replace it with cosine squared. So I have my secant squared, but now instead of 1 minus sine squared, I'm rewriting it as cosine squared. What is secant? Secant is the reciprocal of the cosine. So secant squared is 1 over cosine squared. But it's times a cosine squared. Gang, what's going to happen? These are going to cancel and you are going to be left with just 1. Who would have thought that that mess right there simplifies to just 1? We're going to do one more. Number 14. Cosecant tangent. Hey, you know what? I know these are hard. Quit whining. We can do it. We'll get better with some practice. Now you have on your purple sheet, you have, well, these you already have memorized, I think. What's cosecant? Cosecant is 1 over the sine. What's tangent? Well, that's one of your, what they call the quotient functions on the paper. And your quotient, tangent, is sine over cosine. Yes, you need to memorize that. You're supposed to already have it memorized, but if not, look at your purple sheet. Tangent is sine over cosine. And secant is 1 over cosine. Now, this is a multiplication here, kids. These guys are getting multiplied. These will cancel. In a multiplication, those cancel. So we're left with 1 over cosine plus 1 over cosine. Wait, that's 2 over cosine. That's it. You're done. Very, very good. Now, we're going to do some more of those, but what I want you to do now is something entirely different. Turn over. Now we're going to look at the back of page 40. The back of page 40 says 5.5, section 5.5, and I need you to get your calculators out. This is going to require a calculator. Those of you that are not in the habit of bringing your calculators, you will not be able to function for the rest of this unit. So you need to start bringing your calculators. We are going to solve this triangle. This is A, problem A, 5.5 on the back of page 40. This is problem A. Now, it's important that we label our triangle appropriately. So the angles are all labeled with capital letters. This is side A, and we'll use a little letter. That's side A. This is side B, and this is side C. Notice that the sides are labeled across from the angles. So like we've been talking about the opposite side, so here we got the opposite side. So opposite angle A is side A, opposite angle B is side B, opposite angle C is side C. Your job, when the directions say solve the triangle, is to find everything that's missing. So I made a list over there for you. So we got to find angle B, we got to find side B, and we got to find side C. Those are the missing pieces. Groupies, this is not a right triangle. Please do not think SOHCAHTOA. It will not work. When you say SOHCAHTOA, when you say S-O-H, SOHCAHTOA, what does the H stand for? Hypotenuse. That is not a right triangle. It does not have a hypotenuse. Therefore, SOHCAHTOA is out. No SOHCAHTOA. Instead, we're going to use something called the law of sines. And the law of sines is incredibly simple. You'll love it. Everybody does. The law of sines says you can make a proportion. The sine of A over side A is the sine of B over side B is the sine of C over side C. Now, of course, we're not going to use all three of these at a time. We'll do two at a time. Like we'll do this one or we'll do this one, but we'll only use two of the fractions at a time. And then we will cross multiply and solve for whatever it is we're looking for. Here's how this works. First of all, when I look at this triangle, I see this angle's 38 and this angle's 70. I can find this angle and I don't need anything fancy. What do I know about the angles of a triangle? The angles of a triangle add up to 180. So I have 38 plus 70 already. So if I subtract 180 minus that, this angle has to be 72 degrees. Remember, the angles of a triangle must add up to 180 degrees. Now, when you are building your proportion, I want you to find the pair that you have already. And when I say pair, I mean angle A side A, angle B side B, angle C side C. Which pair do you have? It's not the C's because you don't have side C. It's the A's, isn't it? You have angle A and you have side A. So we'll say sine 38 over 16. The law of sines says you take the sine of A over side A. So we're going to take the sine of 38 over 16. And then we're going to set that equal to the sine of 70 over C. Now before you start asking, I could also have set it equal to sine 72 over B. It's my choice. I just picked this one. You could do sine 72 over B, and in fact in a minute we're going to. We have to do them both, and the order that we do them in does not matter. So now I have a proportion. The sine of angle A over 16 equals the sine of angle C over side C, which I don't know. So I will cross multiply. C sine 38 equals 16 sine 70. Please write this down with me. In order to figure out what C is, I'm going to divide both sides by the sine of 38. So C equals 16 sine 70 over the sine of 38. And I'm going to type that in on my calculator. Now I do have a word of caution for you. When you type 16 sine 70, the calculator automatically puts a parentheses there, doesn't it? You have to close that parentheses. You must physically close that parentheses and then divide it by sine 38. So side C, which is the side I just found, is 24.4. By the way, I didn't mention this, but make sure you're in degrees. Your calculator needs to be in degrees, or of course you won't get the right answer because these are degree measures. Make sure you're in degrees. Now we need side B. We're going to do exactly the same thing, kids. Exactly. We're going to say sine 38 is to 16 as sine 72 is to B. Cross multiply. And divide. So once again, I'm going to go to my calculator and I'm going to type this in, being very careful to close the parentheses around the angles. So 16 sine 72 divided by sine 38. That side is 24.7. And you just solved your first triangle using the law of sines. Let's try the second one. All right, I'm going to solve this triangle. That means find everything I don't already know. I'm going to label it first. This would be side E, and this would be side F. This, of course, is side D. So I am missing angle D, side E, and side F. Now, I made a list on the paper. You can see right there. That's what you're looking for. That's what we need to find. So let's look at that. It looks to me like we can find angle D pretty easily, just like we did in our last example. Remember, the angles of a triangle must add up to 180. So if you've got a 48 and a 71, that gives you a 61 on angle D. So angle D is 61 degrees. Now we're going to use our law of sines. We're not doing SOHCAHTOA, we're not doing the Pythagorean theorem. Those things do not work unless you have a right triangle, and we do not. So what are we going to use? The law of sines. So what's the pair we have? Remember, you've got to, when you set up your proportion of something equals something, when you set it up, you got to have one pair here. You got to have both pieces. So it looks like it's D. We have sine 61 over 8. That pair we have, D and D. Now let's find E next. Does it matter? No. I'm just finding E next. So sine 48 over E. If you want to find F, go for it. I'm going to find it in a minute. I have to find them both, and the order doesn't matter. Cross multiply. E sine 61 equals 8 sine 48. Divide by sine 61. So E equals 8 sine 48 over sine 61. Now I'll go to my calculator, being very careful to close the parentheses around my angles. So 8 sine 48 divided by sine 61. And side E is about 6.8. Obviously, I'm rounding these things off. I have to. Now I need side F. I always go back to my original information. I don't want to use this because it's rounded. So I'm going to go back to my original information. And I'm going to say sine 61 is to 8. As, now I'm doing F, so I'll say sine 71 over F. I'll cross multiply. So F sine 61 equals 8 sine 71. I'll divide by sine 61. So F equals 8 sine 71 over sine 61. And I'll go to my calculator, typing that in very carefully. And I got about 8.6. And you're done. You found everything that you were supposed to find. Now there's one more example. We're going to do it. It's at the top of page 41. But what I'd like you to do is stop the video, pause the video, and see if you can do this by yourself. And then turn it back on and see if you match my answer. Okay? So you turn it off, and while you're working, I'll be working, and then you can turn it back on and check. If you feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable yet with it, then we'll do it together. Okay, so we've got triangle ABC, which, by the way, isn't drawn. You have to draw it yourself. Doesn't matter where you put A, B, and C. Just put them up there. A is 42, B is 73, and side A is 6. So this is side C, and this is side B, and I need angle C, side B, and side C. So as usual, the first thing I'll do is find my missing angle. And my missing angle must be 65 degrees because the angles of a triangle add up to 180. Now the pair I have is right here, so I'll start with sine 42 over 6. And I'll find C next, so sine 65 over C. Now again, it doesn't matter which one you find first. You need to find both of them, B and C. Order doesn't matter. So cross multiplying, C sine 42 equals 6 sine 65. I'll divide by sine 42. So C equals 6 sine 65 over sine 42. Typing that in really carefully on my calculator, making sure to close the parentheses around the angles. The parentheses here. I got 8.1 for side C. And now I need B, so I'll go back and use my original given, so sine 42 over 6, right here, and use this pair. That's the pair I'm starting with. And that's going to equal sine 73 over b. So I will cross multiply. B sine 42 equals 6 sine 73. And I'll divide. So B equals 6 sine 73 over sine 42. So here we go. I got 8.6 for side B. And that, groupies, is the law of sines. We'll spend a little more time with it tomorrow because there is one little tricky piece associated with it, but overall it's a pretty simple rule to learn and use. So you're off and running now on your homework. Have a wonderful rest of the day.